One of the first things Wellesley did was join forces with part of the Portuguese army. Initially, this new Anglo-Portuguese army recruited around 2,500 Portuguese soldiers. The Portuguese army was short of weapons, but the British had brought additional guns to equip them. Nothing characterizes the warfare of the Peninsular War quite so much as the rifle brigades. Wellesley famously and affectionately referred to his Portuguese riflemen, the caçadores, as my fighting cocks. The rifle of choice was the Baker rifle. This is an original for you?
It's model pattern 1805.
1805, and it's a really good weapon. It just comes into position nicely. It's a relatively short barrel for a rifle, so good for sniping activity.
This shorter because they fought between the bushes and everything, you know. Needs a shorter gun.
The snipers.
Snipers. 3 small LED lamps to put inside the barrel.
Okay.
And then you can see the rifling inside of the bore. Okay.
Okay. So you've put illumination in and oh wow.
There are 7 grooves.
That is extraordinary. I can really see the grooves in there. Makes the ball spin. And a spinning ball is more stable. And by being more stable aerodynamically, it's not only more accurate, it also shoots further. So, I mean, compared to a smoothbore musket, a smoothbore brown bess shoots, what, 40 meters?
40 meters.
Top.
Maximum.
Maximum.
Yeah. The Baker's 300 meters.
300. So this can shoot 300 meters, but only if you use forced ball.
Only that.
Explain the difference between forced ball and counter, because it depends on the situation, doesn't it?
Exactly. The riflemen or the Portuguese caçadores or 95 rifles can use 2 types of ammunition. For fast firing is normal musket, you know.
So just a cartridge to that, I can feel that's got the ball in the cartridge and powder.
Is the cartridge and powder, you see?
Okay, so I can see. So it's got the ball, and there's the powder, it's all wrapped up, you pop that in.
That is normal.
And that explodes and sends that out. So
then
once the enemy's close, you don't want long range.
No.
You want quick. You want quick.
You use that.
You use that. However, when using the Baker rifle at long range, and to gain the maximum effect from the rifling, you need to use forced ball, a lead ball with a patch. And the patches are kept in here. So in the butt of the rifle there is a little patch box, very clever little design, and you need that.
Yeah, and you need the ball.
Because the idea of this is you put the patch there and the ball, and that, oh, that's tight. That really has to be forced. That's why they call it forced ball. And that is what's going to make it spin.
Yeah, spin inside,
because it's so tight in there.
Yeah.
But another thing about the Baker rifle, because it was very much used by snipers, they're shooting from cover. They had all sorts of extraordinary shooting positions. Sometimes you would see them shooting on the ground with their feet crossed, using their feet like that as a gun rest. I think you've got to be pretty careful that doesn't ricochet back into your face. Sometimes they would shoot using their shako, their headwear to rest on. Other times they're here shooting on their knees, and other times they're standing to shoot. So lots of different positions, different ammunition. It's really adaptable according to the situation.
Situation, exactly.
French infantry always attacked in columns, relatively narrow but very deep lines of men. The idea was that they could smash through the enemy. It was quite effective, it was very powerful, although the limitation was they couldn't bring much firepower to bear, only in the front line. The defence for the British and the Portuguese, and indeed the French, was 3 lines of muskets. That is, until the Battle of Vimeiro. Wellesley decided to put his men into 2 lines. And you can see what's happened. The ranks have broadened, and you're bringing much more firepower onto the battlefield. This was a new system, pioneered here for the first time, and Wellesley used it throughout the Peninsular War and all the way up to Waterloo. And under this relentless barrage of musketry, the French broke and turned, pursued by the British with fixed bayonets. Next, Junot sent in 2 battalions of French grenadiers, crack troops. They faced a blistering barrage of Anglo-Portuguese artillery. Artillery was the real workhorse of the Napoleonic battlefield. The standard ammunition was this round shot. I've got to put a glove on because this is actually original ammunition that was found here on the battlefield. That's a 3-pounder, the same size that comes out of a cannon like that. You can have 3-pounders, 6-pounders, 9-pounders, 12-pounders, huge, great balls. But bigger is not necessarily better because there's all sorts of factors, like moving your gun around the battlefield. The smaller the gun, the more quickly you can move it around the battlefield, the fewer horses you need to move it on campaign. So these 3-pounders were used a very great deal. These smaller balls are grape shot. You would have 10, 12 of these in a bag. Obviously they work at much shorter range, but they scatter. And similar to grape shot is this, canister shot. Now, this isn't original, this is a model, but you can see how it works. It's a canister, it's canister shot, case shot, and it's got lots of little balls, and it's like a shotgun, so you get this spray effect. Much shorter range, but terrible anti-personnel weapon, but not as terrible as this. This is an original piece found here on Vimeiro battlefield of shrapnel. This is exploded shrapnel casing. Wasn't the first time it was used, but it's the first time the French faced it. And it was invented by a British artilleryman, Sir Henry Shrapnel. Faria, how does it work?
This is the model of the shrapnel. And as you can see, they are fired not from a normal cannon, but from a howitzer. It's a bigger, wider one. Well, inside of this ball, iron ball, is a fuse.
Okay,
and there
which is something like this. So
a fuse like that.
That's a fuse.
That the artilleryman can cut to explode this at the range necessary.
So in effect, that's a timer.
Is a timer. Yeah, is a timer. Is 50 meters, 100 meters, 200, 150 meters, you know.
And then in the and it's like that's like in the American national anthem, isn't it? Bombs bursting in air.
Exactly.
Because it was just 2 years later, 3 years later,
same thing.
at Fort McHenry, they were using shrapnel to bomb.
I'm going to show you inside this. This is the shrapnel. So you see the fuse, and this is musket balls, you know.
So when that fuse burns down, this is packed with musket balls and gunpowder, and the whole thing smashes, and you get the musket balls flying and the jagged casing, which tears into flesh and does terrible damage. In the air. Bombs
because the infantry goes here, and this explodes in the air. So a shower of balls comes from the air to the infantrymen, you know. It's terrible to the infantry. The French are very afraid of this.
As the howitzers rain shrapnel on the French, Junot is still waiting for Brenier's brigade to arrive at the battle. In the meantime, he sends General Kellerman with a large force on a much shorter flanking manoeuvre. And this brings them into the village, down the street and past this church. The main battlefield is over there, so Junot's army is there. He sent his men around this way. They're coming down this street to try and get behind the British army. But the British had seen this move, and they sent men to man this churchyard. Now, I know these guys are in Portuguese uniforms, that's okay, we're all on the same side, but it serves to illustrate the point. You can see what a strong defensive position this is. There was actually British troops on the other side of the road as well, and for quite some time, this village, this churchyard, was the scene of fierce fighting, of fierce urban warfare. Sorry! Grazie, ça se dispara. Stop. Thank you. Obrigado. I bet the neighbours must love us, but it really gives me a sense of what a tremendous defendable position this is. This is not the original wall, but there was a wall here, and the French could not scale it. Not only were there British forces here, but there was a company of foot guards just up the road in the cemetery, and after a short firefight, they fixed bayonets and charged. Vicious hand-to-hand fighting right here in these streets. But eventually, the Anglo-Portuguese army pushed the French back and out of Vimeiro. Next, with the command, "Now 20th, now is the time," Wellesley ordered the 20th Light Dragoons to charge. Around 500 cavalry, half British and half Portuguese, attacked heroically, but they were vastly outnumbered by French cavalry. Their British commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Taylor, was killed in action. Junot was still waiting for Brenier's brigade to engage, but they were still somewhere way over there with their heavy artillery using the good roads. So, meanwhile, he sent Solignac's brigade to attack the Anglo-Portuguese left flank. And they had to climb quite a steep slope, really quite similar to this tent. So they can see along the ridge there's, fairly thin Anglo-Portuguese defence, and they think they're going to be able to plough through them. So the men slog up the hill as fast as they can, and when they get to the ridge, when they get to the top of the hill, that is what faces them. Anglo-Portuguese firepower. 3,300 of Wellesley's men are there on what's known as the reverse slope. This was a new tactic that Wellesley tried at Vimeiro, a tactic that he used throughout the Peninsular War. It means that here's your main forces. The enemy coming up here can't see your strength until they get to the top, and then it's too late. It was certainly too late for the French. After enduring a withering volley of musket balls, they broke and ran. Brenier arrived at that moment, but his men were exhausted, outnumbered, and soon defeated. While this was all going on, Wellesley's superior officer, Sir Harry Burrard, had arrived at headquarters and assumed command. Wellesley was keen to push home the advantage he had won on the field, but to his frustration, Burrard determined it would be too risky to pursue the enemy. He ordered Wellesley's army to stay put. This house across the road was turned into a field hospital for the British and Portuguese wounded. The British and Portuguese suffered 720 casualties, whereas the French suffered 1,800.
Welcome to the History Hit YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed that video.
And if you'd like to see more videos where we attempt to try and bring history to life, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Cheers guys, see you soon.